Hi there, it's Danny Tack. We're outside the venue where we'll be holding the beer pong tournament. Just under a week. It's quiet now, but come the next week, it's going to be cheers, laughter, and the odd boo ringing around in that hall. Now we've got 24 teams already signed up. That's the biggest tournament to date. So without further ado, I can't wait to see who's going to be getting who. So I'll pass you over to the studio now.
Thanks for the great introduction, Danny. Welcome everyone to the studio. My name's William Gregor and I'm your host for the 2014 Steve Griffiths Charity Beer Pong Draw, which I know you've all been eagerly awaiting for. We've got another great show lined up for you today with some very special guests who will be making the draw a little bit later on. But before we get to that, I do just have one thing to deal with. We did have a small complaint from one of the previous shows that was a certain team felt they deserved more recognition for their achievements and should have been featured in our Players to Look Out For section. After a short deliberation by the team, we decided they're probably right. That team was Laura Nelson and Victoria Wright. Not only did they beat Team Beast, the previous year's finalists, which incidentally knocked them out of the tournament, but they were also the first full female team to make it out of the group stage. Maybe they can achieve that same great feat this year and get into the Players to Watch Out For section next year. Now, with that out of the way, I'd like to introduce our very special guests, last year's winners, Nick Tarver and Thomas McGregor.
Try and you succeed. Never doubt that you're the one, and you can have your dream. You're the best. Alright. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down.
It's great to see you together. Got to admit though, for a while it didn't look like you was going to enter this year. You left it a little late to sign up. Is there a problem in the team, Cam?
No, we're all good. We just we were focused on training. We got our entry in before the closing date, so it was all right.
Ah, yeah, it's great. I did hear you've been boot camping in Thailand. I'm told they play old school over there with bamboo cups. Can you confirm that's true for us, Nick?
I can confirm that I was in Thailand. Not boot camping it up, just relaxing, chilling out with the missus before the big tournament next week, clearing my head. So yeah, it's good. I'm refreshed and in the right frame of mind for next week to defend our titles.
That's great. And one last question before we move on. What teams do you want to play this year? Tom, why don't you start us off?
No team in particular. If you want to win it, you've got to beat whoever's put in front of you, and we'll take on all comers.
That's great. What about you, Nick?
Personally, I'd like to play Andy Day and Michael Doyle. Michael Doyle's come out with a ridiculous comment that he's guaranteeing to get out of the group, which is bold. And also I was out with a rival last night, Andy Day, claiming that it was a stitch up last year. They were the most consistent team, yet they didn't win. So I'd like to just kind of see how good they think they are, and school them and show them why we were the most consistent team, hence why we're the champions.
That's great. Well, hopefully the draw will fall in your favour and you get to play those teams. So just give you a quick rundown of how the tournament's going to work this year, because we've got 24 teams. So we're going to have 6 groups of 4 teams. Obviously the winners of each group will go through to the quarterfinals, but as we still need 2 extra teams, the runners-up from each group will go into 2 mini-leagues, and the winners of those leagues will be the last 2 teams of the quarterfinals. So Nick, if you want to draw the first seeds for us, would you just like to remind us what teams we've got there this year?
Sure. So the top seeds are yourself and Darren Quinton, Andy Day and Michael Doyle, the reigning champs, Team El Segundo, myself and Tom, Tony Connig, Scott O'Mahony, Daniel Broom and Dan Gallagher, and finally the last year's beaten finalists, Steve and Abby.
That's great. So I'd just like to fold them up, put them in the cup ready for the draw.
All done.
I'll give that a little mix for you and we'll get underway. I'd like to pick the first team then, Nick, please.
That's the first team for Group A.
So, Group A, first team, Tony Connig and Scott O'Mahony. Group B, Tom McGregor and Nick Tarbard. Group C is going to be Will McGregor and Darren Quinton. Right, fourth team, Andy Day, Michael Doyle, Group D. Fifth team, Steve Basing and Abby Hayes, Group E. Final team for Group F. Group F's first team, so Daniel and Daniel. Just give you a quick rundown of those teams again. Group A, we have Tony Connick and Scott O'Mahony. Group B is Tom McGregor and Nick Tarbard. Group C is Will McGregor and Darren Quinton. Group D is Andy Day and Michael Doyle. Group E is Steve Bayes and Abby Hayes. And Group F is Daniel and Daniel. Would you like to fold up your teams, Tom, ready for a second draw? Just give that a little mix here, Tom, and you'd like to draw the second teams for us.
Group A, Kenny Donkey Long and Ricky Diddy Clegg. Group B, Ashley McFarlane and George Buckingham. Group C, Laura Nelson and Vicky Wright. D, Chris Griffiths and Liam O'Grady.
Nice.
E, Jake Soon and Nancy Bertie. And lastly, F, Danny Tack and Simon Dixon.
That's great, Tom, thanks. I'll just give us a rundown of those teams again then. So Group A, joining Tony and Scott is going to be Kenny and Ricky. Group B, joining Tom and Nick is going to be Ashley and George. Group C, joining myself and Darren is going to be Laura and Vicky. Group D, joining Andy and Michael is going to be Chris and Liam. Group E, joining Steve and Abby is going to be Jay and Nancy. And Group F, joining Daniel and Daniel is going to be Danny and Simon. Do you want to just fold up those last teams for us, Nick, and I'll get the final draw done. That's great, Nick, thanks a lot. I'll just give those a mix and take it in turns to draw the next team. Would you like to go first, Nick?
So joining Group A,
That's great, it's Ricky and Liam.
Group B, Michelle Knott and Matt Darcett.
I'd like to do Group C for us, Nick.
there we go.
That's great, it's Simon Collins and Elliot Collins.
Group B, Ashley Bagley and Jane Moyle.
Thank you. Group E for us. That's great. That's Connor O'Grady and Jake Watson.
F, Lee Constable and Lucy Klein.
Great. Now the last teams for each group starts off, Nick. Holly and Vicky, last team in that group. Last team for Group B, please.
And it is Kim Bauer and Darren Campbell.
Last team for Group C, please, Nick. Kirsty Lee and Armit Calco. Last team for Group D, please.
It's Charlie Hindle and Bradley Smith.
That's great. Last E, please, Nick. That's great. Emma Wilson, Kirsty. And the very last team, please, Tom. That's wonderful. That's Simone and Denise. So I'll just read those groups out in their entirety for you. Group A is Tony and Scott, and they're joined by Kenny and Ricky, Ricky and Liam, and Holly and Vicky. Group B is Tom and Nick, Ashley and George, Michelle and Matt, and Kim and Darren. Group C is William McGregor and Darren, Laura and Victoria, Simon and Elliot, and Kirsty and Amit. Group D is Andy and Michael, and they're joined by Chris and Liam, Ashley and Jane, and Charlie and Bradley. Group E is Steve and Abby, and they're joined by Jay and Nancy, Connor and Jake, and Emma and Kirsty. And the final group is Daniel, and they're joined by Danny and Simon, Lee and Lucy, and Simone and Denise. That's great, and the draw's over now. The team would just like to thank our special guests, Tom and Nick, for helping us with the draw, and thanks to all you at home for entering. Can't wait to see you next Saturday, 5 PM sharp at the Hall. See you for now.